But other things that are not so much done manually, but still present a challenge for us is keeping our travel data accurate. Because the product we have is very complex. It consists of constantly changing information, prices, availability, services, you name it. All of these services are constantly changing. Of course, there are tools and providers that help us with, but it's still a challenge because we want to have trips to destinations all over the world for people who are coming all over different places.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Reframe First. I'm Oleksij, I'm the host of the podcast. Let me welcome our today's guest, Filip Smoljan, Chief Growth Officer at Worldee. Hi Filip, great having you here.
Thank you for having me, man. Nice to see you again.
Yeah. Awesome. Worldee is about itinerary-first booking concept. You've got some expert crafted itineraries, and then you build like affordable packages of affordable flights, accommodations, bookings arranged around these itineraries. So that's from what I get about the concept of the products. Could you like tell us more about what you're building at Worldee and what your missions are and so on?
Of course. Well, so here's the quick intro to Worldee for anyone who hasn't heard of us yet. We are a young travel marketplace where experienced travelers, as you rightly said, itinerary creators, they share their real itineraries with us. And then we turn those itineraries into bookable self-guided trips. And you as a customer can then customize each trip based on the airport you're flying from, the accommodation you want to use, type of your rental car, and you can even pick which activities to include or exclude from the itinerary itself. And then once you're on a trip, you have a digital guide explaining to you every single stop like you would have it if you were there with a traditional human guide. So it's all in one travel product, but the core of everything is, as you said, the itinerary. The story actually, because that's why people travel. They want to travel to some place because they heard a great story about it. They want to experience it by themselves, and then they want to tell that stories further to other people. But they want to do all of that without all the hassle of researching, booking separately, and managing every single detail because trust me, it can take quite a lot of time. So this is what Worldee is all about.
Awesome. That's something new. I didn't realize that. So it's like these are digital itineraries with like digital guides and stuff. Because firstly, you operated the concept of travel buddy. So I was assuming it's somebody who is personally like walking through this itinerary. So right now you're telling it's like digital guide. So
exactly.
How does it work? Yeah. How does it work? How do you create it?
We created based on the authentic experiences of real travelers. So someone who actually went on some great trip and they share the whole plan with us. They tell us how long is this trip supposed to be? Is it supposed to be like a short city break of 3 or 4 days? Or is it like a 70-day expedition through Australia and New Zealand, for instance? They write all the stops to the itineraries. They write you recommendations. They tell you what you need to be careful about and what not. They also tell you what are all the different prices that you might experience whilst you're traveling there, or working hours of specific places, and they write all of this down. Then they submit this to Worldee, and then Worldee, of course, checks everything to see that there are no, let's call it like some weird situations like you would teleport from one place to another magically. The trip needs to make sense. It needs to be realistic.
Yep.
And after this is done, we are connecting all the services through the technology we have, combining, as I said, accommodation, different flights based on where you are going from, all the optional activities, transportation like rental car and others. And then you go on this trip and you have in Worldee app your digital guide who's tracking you. And every time you're somewhere you want to see something, you can have it in a form of a form of a audio guide, like in your headphones, and exactly explaining you everything like you would usually do, I don't know, 30 years ago, or even today with a traditional human guide guiding you through all of these experiences.
Yeah, that's a great concept, and I see why you're growing. So, like, hearing about this kind of concept for the first time. So, and what are you packaging into the end package? Is it like flights accommodation, or is it also some, I don't know, tickets within the like on the itinerary steps
So
or
everything that actually is bookable,
everything?
flights, accommodation, and rental car if it's a road trip
Uh-huh.
or a trip where you're visiting several different places. We are booking everything that is bookable. But of course, in case there something is not possible to book, except if you're on the spot, then we are recommending you and telling you in advance this is how much cash you need to prepare for this specific spot. So basically, we want to get to the point where everything is handled in Worldee app, and all the money people need to spend while they're on a trip is on restaurants and souvenirs, and that's it.
Awesome. Yeah, and like one of the biggest issues, like challenges for travel startups is like unique content, and here you have quite likely UGC content created by itinerary creators, like provide.
Exactly. And this is what we feel in the future will seem even more original because we see AI overtaking at everything. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of AI, especially with optimization and efficiency, which can be improved by it. But I also think that people will crave for unique, authentic experiences. And when you open one of our trips, you see real travelers with their own photos and written in a way where they are explaining to you like they would explain it to a friend who is about to embark on this same journey as they have. So it's quite a unique UGC content, and what we can see is that people are reacting to it really well.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, because people are used to not trust the platform anymore, but trust the other people. And here you have it. Yeah, awesome, awesome. And like, if not a secret, how many itineraries do you have already in the city?
Well, it's not a secret. Right now, we have over 600 itineraries live that people can purchase from multiple markets. So we're mostly focused on the United States, Germany, and Czech Republic. But there are hundreds of more which we are still planning to publish that have been submitted by our itinerary creators. We are just redefining everything that we need to create for them in order to be made published and so that anyone can book it from those countries.
And how many creators are there?
Well, that's actually an excellent question because some of the creators really like the concept and they keep publishing more, especially when they see that there is like a lot of demand for their own itinerary. So there are creators who publish more than 10 or 15 trips, and they're the ones who just started, so they just publish like one or two itineraries. So totally, I would say all of the active creators, we have several hundreds right now. But what we have seen that during the last couple of weeks, every week there is at least 30 or 40 new creators who are registering to become an itinerary creator at Worldly. They're going for the onboarding, and we see a lot of interest for this type of activity.
But it's not like a lot of itineraries per creators. Like you mentioned, like 600 published itineraries and several hundred creators.
It's not a lot right now, but we're seeing as those self-guided trips really get picked up, because what's the motivation for them to do so? They're also receiving a fee every time someone books their trip. So this is why it's a marketplace. We are connecting demand and supply. And of course, there's no better incentive in a marketplace for a supplier than when your product gets picked up more.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And like, how much of the fee? Like, if again, it's not. I'm not asking about big financial data, but rather like as an itinerary creator, how much can I expect to earn from
Well,
it?
it really depends on the popularity of a trip.
Yeah,
What we see right now that for majority it can be a very good second income, but a couple of creators can turn it into a really profitable business for themselves.
yeah.
We see this growing.
And like from each booked itinerary, how much can I earn? Still, like if getting into numbers. I went over there, created an itinerary in like my home city in Lviv. There is a lot to see here. And how much can I expect that each traveler from each travel that used my itinerary on the platform? I can. Maybe I should not run my business. Maybe I should switch
Yeah,
to
it
this one.
depends actually on the itinerary itself.
Depends.
It's it's a small percentage of the whole booking value. Basically, it depends if a trip, if you're traveling from, I don't know, Frankfurt to Barcelona for 3 days, it's not going to be a very expensive trip. I mean, it can be, but no one will buy it, you know? So it really depends on how much orders there are and what the cost of underlying services of the itineraries are. Of
It's
course,
kind
some
of like revenue sharing that you are providing. So you get a small percentage of the cost of the flight because the margins there are really, really thin. And then you get something from accommodation and you share a part of the revenue with the itinerary creator.
exactly. We are
Yeah.
partners in this whole system.
Yeah. Awesome. And yeah, that actually makes sense because like nowadays when Google like hit hard a lot of travelers living off from their like blogs because they were traveling, having some blogs, and they were receiving traffic from Google, and they were like living off that. And since like Google hit them quite hard about 2 years ago, and says it still didn't recover, and quite likely it won't recover. So their platform is kind of like providing the back office, the traffic for them to just publish these itineraries, publish their stories, and and make some passive income.
Exactly. And we are supporting them in every way we can, meaning whatever type of trip they have, we try to make it happen. You know, whether, as I said, it's simple city break or you are embarking on a multi country trip, and where it's important to have even several flights in between in the middle of the stay. So it's really important to have the technology that will allow them to share the trip, the itinerary, in a form they have originally envisioned it and actually went to it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. That's a great concept. So thanks for sharing. And with regards, like, how do you see that like market has changed over? I would say traveler market has changed over the last like a year or 2 years of time, or maybe post COVID, because like after COVID, travel became necessity. Like one of the changes was about personalized experience, but you already like your product is around personalized experience. And what else do you see that has changed and that's happening on the market?
Well, from the industry, what I have seen in the last couple of years is sort of a shift from those traditional group trips, where you go with an actual guide with a group of 20 strangers on one specific date. I see less and less people interested in that, and all of them are more interested in a self-guided trip. So now how they organize their own self-guided trip, that's another story. They can of course book everything separately, research all the hotels and everything, or they could use a service like ours. But I see the shift here that a lot of people want to travel with their own private groups or their own family, which can also be a private group, or even solo travelers. I see that a lot of people are trying to go somewhere with solo traveling because there's a lot of information available right now which wasn't before, and it kind of makes you more ready to go to embark on a trip by yourself.
And maybe what do you mind like um, acquisition channels for your visitors? Like, because like I've seen the landscape like has shifted quite a bit with Google fighting with AI, with Reddit becoming the major travel platform somehow. So and some platforms trying to shift into creative economy, into like working with creators. And what do you experience, and what are your traffic acquisition channels?
Well, of course, we do have some traditional methods like Google and Meta. We cannot
Yeah.
do without it because travel as a product, it's rarely an impulse buy. You need multiple touches before someone reaches a decision. So, of course, we're investing in traditional channels like Meta and Google, but we're also partnering with some other platforms in order to reach travelers more effectively. And there's also one really interesting source of our traffic is our own itinerary creators. When they create a trip like this, they want to brag about it. I'm not talking, they're not like influencers with millions of followers or something like this, but over time they could be. And right now they just want to show the world, as I told at the beginning, they want to share their own story. And this is also one of the, let's say, organic and direct sources of traffic for us. So it's a combination of of
Yeah.
all of those things. We do not want to depend on one thing solely because this can be a bit risky in long term. But with combining all of this, so traditional advertising channels like Google and Meta, SEO efforts, our own partners, local partners and global partners, which we have in the B2B sphere, and our own itinerary creators, I would say all of these things can mix up to pretty good traffic for us.
Yeah, it sounds like that. Yeah, it really makes sense because like people who created the itineraries, like they want to promote basically their own product they created on your platform. And bring visitors. It's like if you spend time creating an itinerary, it's not so hard to publish it on some Instagram or whatever.
Exactly like this.
Yeah, awesome. And you mentioned like B2B. B2B, is it about like integrations with like accommodation, flights, whatever providers or product providers, or is it about like integration for the sales channels?
So we do have a couple integrations for our own suppliers regarding the services, but here I meant for the distribution channel. We are using a couple of different companies which have already been proven to work for many years, and they have their own huge traffics. And we are basically just distributing our own product with selected deals that they like and they want to have through those channels who have their own loyal base of long-time.
Okay. With regards to like accommodation, just recently I learned that there are like property management systems which I didn't know about, even though like I'm in travel industry for like 10 to 15 years. So do you work with some property management systems or do you integrate with platforms like Booking, Airbnb?
Well, it's more of a local question, meaning on the destination. It really depends on what type of destination we are talking about. At some destinations in Europe, we have certain providers, and for some others, we are looking into some other opportunities. So it's about finding the best offer you can, and it's also about how reliable you can be on every of those providers. So it's also important because of the customer experience.
And still, what are your main providers? Because like we had experience with Booking, we had experience with Expedia in the past, and in the end we switched to Stay 22. It's Canadian startup that like has all of that like.
Yes, well, one of the ones we are collaborating a lot is RateHub, for instance, like a really B2B platform which has got a lot of great offers and they are pretty well connected throughout the world. But as I told you, we are currently trying to negotiate with local expert companies, which can even get us better deals and ultimately make us more price competitive.
Yeah, because you need to like connect with somebody who is providing B2B service. Because if you're working with Booking, you are just sending your user away and it's not your user anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and since you're packaging the deals, you need to like to be able to negotiate each of the line items of the deal.
Exactly. In the whole customer journey, we don't want any of our visitor or customer to leave Worldee universe. Everything needs to happen at our place. And this is why it's important, as you say, to have all those integrations and collaborations.
Yeah, with regards to automations, you're trying to like automate all your internal process. Like what breaks right now the most when you scale? Because you do scale, and you mentioned you have like 600 itineraries published, but many hundreds like are waiting. You're not handling them. It feels like it takes like a lot of manual effort to handle all of them. What else breaks when you scale?
Well, as I said, one of the things that I see that's breaking under manual efforts is, of course, the customer communication. But other things that are not so much done manually, but still present a challenge for us is keeping our travel data accurate because the product we have is very complex. It consists of constantly changing information, prices, availability, services, you name it. All of these services are constantly changing. Of course, there are tools and providers that help us with, but it's still a challenge because we want to have trips to destinations all over the world for people who are coming all over different places. So
Yep.
you can understand how complex it can be. So the challenge of keeping our travel data accurate is something that we are constantly working on because we need to have the data as relevant and as fresh as possible for all the deals that people will be seeing on our site. Otherwise, it will lead to a bad customer experience.
Yeah. And how do you do it? Like somebody came, submitted like some unknowns, like some itinerary in some city, like go see these 10 points. How do you verify it at all? Or do you do it like location based, or how does it work for you?
You mean, do you mean the exact destination?
Like destination, like the itinerary in that destinations. Like you did not have my city on your map, for instance. Like and now I can and like added like 20 points of interest in that city and created two itineraries. How do you do the verification? Because it sounds like it's something that's like the hardest to scale to be able to provide the quality.
Yes, it is something that is difficult to scale. Right now, we are checking this semi-manually, where there is, of course, while people are writing those itineraries, they're using the interface, which is giving them clues, which is giving them instructions on what to do, what not to do, how to best approach it. There is, of course, an onboarding where we explain everything, how it should work and what are some of the best use cases. We try to educate them before they actually start writing it. And there are constant tooltips and similar checkpoints in the interface while you are writing this itinerary. So that we know that basically what we get at the end is a good result that we can produce, but the what actual places you want to put inside the itinerary, we leave this to the itinerary creator themselves because we want them to be original. We don't want 50 same trips to Barcelona or to Rome. We want each one to be somehow different. For instance, it can be one trip can recommend you the best places to eat, like a gastro trip to a certain city. The other trip to Barcelona can be focused solely on Gaudi. So basically on all the architecture and all the masterpieces he created back in the day. It can come from a lot of different views, but what we really want to have is to leave the originality of the trip to the creator, but to standardize the process of writing any itinerary so that it's easier for us to put it, let's call it, to the factory and produce a bookable trip out of it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's all about standardization, basically, of standardizing how the itineraries are created, but leaving the content to be as original as it can be.
Yeah, I had a great interview, like one of my first ones with Jeff from a company called Trippy, and they have like few 100,000 points of interest, and they are about building automated itineraries. When you come to some city, they build like automated one. It has no human touch in it. Like on the other hand, you provide like you do a similar job, but you provide like really personalized like itineraries with human touch, with human involved, with like personal photos, personal story. Quite likely, the itinerary creator can like provide some content and description of what you should see, what you can experience, and so on. So, like, my question would be like, where is the balance? Because these are like two different worlds. One is completely automated; it's ready for agentic AI for all that kind of stuff. So, at some point, we will have like when Siri becomes smart enough in your full smartphone, you can open and, hey Siri, tell me where to go. But it will have no human touch. On the other hand, your product has like is all about human touch. Where is the golden balance? Do you think? Because it still sounds like two different worlds, and I do not see anything in the middle yet.
That is actually a good question because, of course, you're aware that with one prompt you can create a great itinerary by itself, which will be proven. But it might be lacking the actual human touch, and I'd say that the end goal is somewhere to be in between. You know, we also want to use AI in order to recommend better itineraries to people. So let's say you can talk to your phone and tell me, I want to go to Barcelona for 6 days and I want to use these things. And then we could recommend you the real itinerary we have from a real person who was there. So, but it's also about what customers are expecting and what do they like. Do they prefer something authentic, which was done by a real human who share their own story? And it adds a certain level, not only of authenticity, but also a certain level of reassurance. But we want to use all the technology we can in order to reach to customers and to make them their choice the best as it can be.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, you provide quite authentic and personalized because like what can be automated nowadays is like the most like I don't know crowded points of interest. When you go to Paris, you need to go to see the Eiffel Tower, right?
Exactly.
And few more points around. But while you like your itineraries can create like the same whatever Paris, but from different angles, like from
Exactly. And our itineraries, even though the original ones are, as I said, written and created by the itinerary creators, you as a customer and as a traveler can adapt this itinerary as you like. So you can remove one stuff that, I don't know, you don't want to go to a certain restaurant because you don't like that type of cuisine, for instance, and you want to change it for something else. Of course, that is possible, and you can do it while you're creating the trip, while you're on the trip, or for instance, you want to stay at some place for a bit longer time, and you don't want to do the next two stops. That's completely fine. So there is still a level of customization and adaptability to every single traveler who is traveling with Worldee.
yeah, awesome. If you could like easily like add all the remaining itineraries in your backlog to the system, would you like it? Quite likely there is a lot of quality control, but there are like some limitations that you are having. How fast would you like to scale the number of itineraries? Is it
Well,
about like verification, or is it about like you don't want to scale too fast, or like what's the limitations?
the thing is that I don't think it's good to grow at the high speed possible, because there's a lot of things underneath that still need to come to its place in order for us to have thousands and thousands of different itineraries which someone will want to buy. So right now our main priority is to reach the customer expectations. And once we have this done, and it's going to be done really soon, then we can easily scale the itinerary creation and onboarding more itinerary creators as much as possible. Because at the end, you want to have all the destinations in the world covered.
Yeah,
You want to have a trip to Rome for 3, 5, 7, and 10 days, because
yeah,
people who are looking at trips who want to travel, if someone wants to travel, let's say to Italy, they'll travel to Italy. It's just a question whether they will travel with you or not. So if you have a product market fit which they need, and the solution which they need, they will travel with you. And if you don't have it, they'll just choose something else, or they'll do it by themselves.
yeah,
So the end
absolutely.
goal is to have as much itineraries as possible.
Yeah, and when you travel to Rome, there is a lot of different. There are a lot of different angles to see. It's like antique Rome, mid-age Rome, like
Food in Rome,
food.
wine in Rome, of course. You've
Yeah,
got all
uh,
sorts of Romes to visit.
yeah, all sorts of Romes to visit. Where do you see, like, where do you want to be in like half a year or a year's time? Maybe we'll reiterate again in a year and ask you, and I will ask you, have
Well,
you achieved your goals?
yeah, let's see. So
And
in
actually, sorry, like your role is a growth, growth officer.
So I hope that we will reconnect again on this talk in a year, so we can revisit what I said a year ago. But what I see us doing is what I want is to still establish our presence in our three key markets. United States, Germany, and Czech Republic, to gain a lot more visibility. Because right now, I believe that our product is almost completed. We have a real use or real proof that this is what people want. This is how they like to travel. And soon it will be about scaling at a higher pace. So the first thing will definitely be to establish our presence on United States, German, and Czech markets. And after we do this, then we can point to other markets and do gradual market by market expansion.
Like during this conversation, you mentioned it's a marketplace, and marketplace is always chicken and egg problems. So like you do not have a buyer until you have sellers, and vice versa. So like you need to grow them both at the same time.
Exactly. And we want to do this. So this is why we are trying to, when we are doing promotional initiatives for customers who want to go on a trip, we are also doing promotional activities for our suppliers, itinerary creatives, because I think the German traveler will be more likely to follow the advice of a fellow German traveler who went to the same place. Same goes for Americans, and same goes for Czech people. So we are trying to match, as you said, both demand and supply, but it's also about the local mentality. You need both sides in order for this to grow.
That's interesting. You don't need to grow it globally. You need to cover some popular travel destination for certain countries. So, like you mentioned, German travelers. So Germans traveling to, I don't know, Czech Republic, and you need to like have some German people create itineraries about traveling to Czech Republic,
Or any other, because
and then market them on German markets.
exactly. But it's just of the pace how someone would travel. Of course, there are a lot of itineraries which were written by Czech people that can be great for Americans and vice versa.
Yeah,
So we don't see this as a blocker that it cannot be done like this. It certainly can, but in order to grow both sides of the marketplace and to
yeah.
eventually for it to become the real marketplace, you need to grow both the demand and supply on the same location.
Yeah, but you have here the growth hack to like grow the routes, choose individual routes that you want to cover and grow them as markets, as tiny marketplaces, and then grow others, and then the whole platform grows, and you can then like have a like global marketplace. Yeah, that's awesome. That's something new I learned in terms of growth hacking. What else do you have on your plans list for next half a year's time?
What we definitely want to invest in more regarding product is more personalization and for the customers and a lot more options for them to customize their trips. We want this to be like up to the last single detail you can ever think about going to a trip. And what we are also focused on a lot right now are a couple of specific personas which we are to talk to. So I see the best fit for this product is some, let's say, busy professional, someone like yourself, for instance, who doesn't have the time to uh, to plan everything to every single detail, especially if it's a longer trip or
Yeah.
something that you maybe don't know anyone personally that went to their place. So we see this as one of our main personas, but also what we see as a great persona are families. There is now a proper product addressing to their needs right now. So because when you're traveling with a family, and when I say family, I mean like a couple and let's say two small kids, for
Yeah.
instance. You don't want them, I mean, they don't want to travel in a big group because during the vacation, child can get sick or they want to stay at some place longer or something happens. So they are not so suitable for following the pace of the original group, but they're great suited for self-guided trips. And this is why we want to build, and we are already building the product that is precisely for families written by family creators, really great writers, which are either moms or dads, and they show us all the recommendations for their kids and for their own families on various destinations they already went. And we also want to have the accommodation where they are completely suited for families. Plane tickets, for instance, also need to be adapted because kids in most cases don't pay the same rate as the adults do. And we also want to cover them while they're on a trip with everything that they might need. And this is also including an all online doctor support in case someone gets sick, or even additional advices on what to do and where to be in case something happens. Because what we realized during our research is that the security and the safety of the family is one of the biggest concerns for families going on a trip together.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, I heard a great concept. It's called like micro friction moments, and these friction moments will be like the probably next major niche in like itinerary creation. It's not about like major bookings. It's not about accommodation, but it's like micro friction. Like the kid got sick, so you need to have some doctor appointment or whatever. But you need to go somewhere and buy some bandage because like the hand was damaged, and integration with such service providers can be like next big thing. It doesn't happen on each and every trip, but on the big mass, each like on a big volume, each trip has certain amount of these micro friction moments. Like it's will add up to the margin of the trip itself. It could add up quite significantly. So if you're creating this kind of like itineraries, like integrating with some local service providers in terms of like healing your kid, would be like great benefit for you.
It is. So this is what we are actually working on right now, and it's supposed to be released every day, probably next week. with a full
Okay.
product scope for families. And we already have more than 100 itineraries for families ready. So this is something that we are really excited about, because at the end of the day, as I told at the beginning, Worldee is covering everything you need on a single trip. And it's not only the traditional services you pay, but it's also an ease of mind. So we looked what families need while they're on a trip, and this is one of the things they will need, and that's why we are covering it.
Awesome. That's also an interesting point. Awesome. Good luck with what you're doing. That's a great product. I looked at like from the perspective of from your perspective how you see it, and it's really great. It's like interesting concept. Before we'll like wrap it up, do you have anything else you would like to add to what we discussed?
Well, I think we covered a lot of our ideas, a lot of the stages we are currently in, some of the challenges we have. So I would just like to thank you for the opportunity to talk about Worldie to your audience, and thank you for taking the interest into our business and what we are trying to do. Right now, we are still a small startup trying to get to the heights of success. I hope when we meet next time, it will be a different story, because we already see that things are moving on rapidly.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going fast for you. Yeah, and plus we touched base on like different market trends, traveler behaviors, AI, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's really interesting. It was really great conversation. Thanks a lot, Philip, for joining and sharing all these insights with me and with the audience. Thanks a
Thank,
lot, and best of luck with what you're doing, and have a great day.
thank you. Thank you for everything, and have a great day yourself.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.